To all my wonderful subscribers, students, and disciples. This is your Master GongSun. Welcome to another episode of Taoism as Applied to the News. Today's story comes to us from Starbucks in Brazil. Morally repugnant. Brazilian workers sue coffee supplier to Starbucks over slavery-like conditions. Brazil has been the world's leading coffee producer due to the forced labor of enslaved Africans and Afro-Brazilians. Well, that can't be good. Let's see what just happened. John was just days from turning 16 when he was allegedly recruited to work on a Brazilian coffee farm that supplies the global coffee house chain Starbucks. Soon after his birthday, he embarked on a 16-hour bus journey to the farm in the state of, I'm not going to pronounce that because I might butcher it, only to discover that none of what he had been promised would be fulfilled. Unpaid and without protective equipment such as boots and gloves, he worked under a scorching sun from 5:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. with only a 20-minute lunch break until he was rescued in a raid by Brazilian authorities in June 2024. Well, that's horrible. Unpaid and gotta work in the sweltering heat. Yeah, no thanks. The official report from that operation concluded that John had been subjected to child labor in hazardous conditions, and that he and other workers had been trafficked and subjected to slavery-like conditions. Alright, so this week they filed a lawsuit. Let's see what happened. There's a complaint with U.S. Customs and Border Protection to exclude coffee and coffee products produced wholly or in part with forced labor in Brazil from being imported by Starbucks and other major companies such as Nestle, Jacobs, Dunkin', Lilly, and McDonald's. Well, this is horrible. So what happened there? Workers rescued from conditions analogous to slavery, a legal category that includes a combination of factors such as debt bondage, excessively long working hours, degrading accommodation and food, and lack of payment. Well, that does very much sound like slavery to me. Hmm. Approximately 1.3 million people live in 8,400 quilombos across Brazil in conditions worse than the national average in key areas such as sanitation and illiteracy. The fact that Starbucks charges like $6 for a cup of coffee, where most of that has been harvested by forced laborers and child laborers, is really beyond a terrible act. It's morally repugnant, said IRA's executive director, Terence Collingsworth. Well, anyway, I won't read the whole thing, but you know what this is about. Yeah, this is troubling indeed, very concerning. Here's what the Tao says. There has to be balance. There has to be equality, right? I mean, they can't just charge that much for a cup of coffee whereas the laborers aren't even getting paid. Now, that being said, maybe some of these major corporations are unaware of the horrible slavery-like conditions of their suppliers. So that's what they have to be more concerned about. That's where they must investigate. But certainly, no one will take one look at this article and say, oh, that's fine. I mean, this is slavery, and it was outlawed in Brazil. In fact, Brazil was the last country to outlaw slavery in 1889. But they should really be more careful about checking just to make sure that no one is ever subjected again to slavery-like conditions. The Tao is very clear on this. I mean, there must be balance, and this is so ludicrously lopsided that it's pretty obvious what the problem is, right? It's the trafficking and The fact that Starbucks and other corporations, the retailers, they have to check who their suppliers are and what kind of conditions, under which conditions they get their coffee beans. This has been your Master GongSun, and as usual, keep living in alignment with the Tao.